Brothers and sisters and Wayman family members and friends, welcome today for this memorial service for Sister Margo Mills Wayman. I'm Bishop Bensley. Ellis. Margo Mills Wayman Alice. I apologize. I'm Bishop Bensley, and I'll be conducting this meeting this morning. We're going to open by singing hymn number 108, "The Lord is My Shepherd," and after that hymn, Derek Wayman will offer our invocation.
Our dear kind Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day that you have given us to honor Grandma Margo. Please bless us so that we will be comforted with the speakers that have been selected for tonight. Please bless the Spirit be with us in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
The program today will proceed as follows. First, we will have a reading of the obituary by Sister Sarah Wayman, followed by our first speaker, Heather Wayman, both daughters of Margo. Then we'll have a special musical number by Shauna Mills, "Where is Heaven?" Our concluding speaker will then be Margo's son, James, and we will sing the closing hymn number 113, "Our Savior's Love," and Riley Musselman will offer our benediction.
Margo Mills Wayman Fowles died on November 23, 2014 in Atlanta, Georgia, due to complications of cancer. She was 16. Margo was born on February 2, 1954 in Edinburgh, Scotland, to Christine Noble Rutherford Crawford and James Mills. She married Chuck Wayman in 1971. They later divorced. She married Tom Fowles in 2001 and moved to Atlanta in 2001 and lived there until her passing. She was a published author and loved to write children's stories. Margo was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and had many callings in both the primary and young women. She loved to do family history. Margo loved animals, especially cats. She loved going to the zoo to take pictures. She was a world traveler and visited many different countries. Margo is survived by her daughter and son-in-law, Christine and Brent Carter of Arlington, Texas, her son and daughter-in-law, James and Larissa Wayman of Layton, Utah, her daughters Heather Wayman and Sarah Wayman, both of St. Joel's, Utah, her brothers Jim Mills, Brian Mills, and Crawford Mills, and 8 grandchildren. She is preceded in death by her daughters Stephanie Wayman, her sister Tina, and both of her parents.
Hey, Sarah. Sorry, I'm going to talk. No. Technology. I have a little story that I found. Through my life, I've collected a binder of stories that I reference a lot when, I needed a talk or, heaven forbid, a memorial service. Fortunately, it's been happening more than we would like recently. But this one, I think, is very fitting for what we have today. I'll read it to you. It says, one day, there was a young man standing in the middle of a town proclaiming that he had the most beautiful heart in the whole valley. A large crowd gathered, and they all admired his heart, for it was perfect. There was not a mark or a flaw in it. Yes, they all agreed it was truly the most beautiful heart they had ever seen. The young man was very proud and boasted more loudly about his beautiful heart. Suddenly, an old man appeared from the front of the crowd and said, "Why, your heart is not nearly as beautiful as mine." The crowd and the young man looked at the old man's heart. It was beating strongly, but it was full of scars. There were places where pieces had been removed and other pieces had been put in. But they didn't quite fit right, and there were several jagged edges. In fact, in some places there were deep gouges where whole pieces were missing. The people stared. "How can you say that his heart is more beautiful?" they thought. The young man looked at the old man's heart and saw its state and laughed. "You must be joking," he said. "Compare your heart to mine. Mine is perfect, and yours is a mess of scars and tears." "Yes," said the old man, "yours is perfect looking, but I would never trade my heart for yours. You see, every scar represents a person of whom I have given my love. I tear out a piece of my heart and give it to them. Often, they give me a piece of their heart. Their heart, which fits into the empty place in my heart. But the pieces aren't exact. I have some rough edges, which I cherish because they remind me of the love that I have for these people, and I hope someday that I may return and fill the spaces that I have waiting. So now you see what true beauty is." The young man stood silently, with tears running down his cheeks. He walked up to his old man, reached into his perfect young heart, and ripped out a piece. He offered it to the old man, who put the piece in his old scarred heart and placed it in the wound. He ripped out a piece of his old scarred heart and put it in the place of the young man's heart. It fit, but not perfectly, as there were some jagged edges. The young man looked at his heart, not perfect anymore, but more beautiful than ever, since love from the old man's heart flowed into his. They embraced and walked away side by side. I have some jagged edges. I now have a gouge of love that I've given that's now been taken away. But not forever. it's just a temporary gouge. And I know that through the plan of salvation and the love of our Heavenly Father, He would probably rip out His heart and give it to me if I needed it to fill the empty hole that I have. I have a quote about being grateful, and as difficult it is to lose someone, whether it was Stephanie or now my mom, we can still be grateful, not for the loss that we feel from that person, but that we had the opportunity to know that person, and that the opportunity was there for us to show love and to rip out pieces of our heart and give it to them. So this quote says, "When we are grateful to our God in our circumstances, we can experience a gentle peace in the midst of tribulation. In grief, we can still lift up our hearts in praise. In pain, we can glorify Christ's atonement. In the cold of bitter sorrow, we can experience the closeness and warmth of heaven's embrace." And I felt that warmth and embrace more in the last 3 weeks, I think, than I probably ever have. I compare it to being wrapped in a warm blanket that just came out of the dryer. You're snugly and warm, and I felt it. And I appreciated it. And that is going to be the thing that takes a thread and sews up the ginormous hole that I have. It's not missing because of my mother. I'm grateful for all of you being here, for the chance I have to share, and I say these things in Jesus Christ. Amen.
I know everybody in here, but this is still hard. That song. So as most of you know, I grew up with 4 sisters. Life was rough. Thanks, Mom. Can you give me a brother? But that song, so between 1987 and 1989, we moved quite a bit. And every time we moved into a new ward, my mom would make me get up in Sacramento with my sisters and sing that song as Welcome to the Ward. It's called Where is Heaven by Janice Capberry, and it was on an album called I'm Trying to Be Like Jesus. I'm not a whiny kid, but I'm struggling today. That is the music, other than Bon Jovi, that played in our house a lot when I was a kid. And I got to give credit to Mom. She actually bought me my first Bon Jovi album and got me into that wonderful world. But all joking aside, growing up, there was always primary music playing in our house. And in primary, we'd sit there and we'd all know the words to the songs. And I remember one time one of the primary presidents, he goes, stopped there, and was like, the Waymans are the only ones out here singing. What's going on here? I remember Mom saying, well, they have this at home. And we would listen to that all the time. I knew all the lyrics, all the Janice Capberry songs. So, you know, I asked Shauna if she would play that song today, because that's the song that I remember most. I actually was going to see if Heather and Sarah wanted to sing it, but we spared you on that one. You know, over the last 3 weeks, every time I had a thought about what I wanted to share, I'd pull out my phone and enter in my notebook, and I have like 70 different bullet points here that I could hit on. You know, and I got thinking, who was Mom? You know, on Facebook I've put a lot of pictures of the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s, and clear up until recent times. You know, some of these pictures I have never seen before. This one here of a lady. I don't know where this picture was taken, but I love this picture. What do you owe your parents? You know, think about your mom. And I look back over the years, who I am. Gosh, I need to do some jumping jacks or something. Who I am as a result of who she was, and that being the good side. You know, Scouts. I was the only boy, so she was the driving force behind me being my Scout. Not that Dad didn't. You know, he was my Cub Master. He followed me up the ranks as well. But when I got my Eagle Scout at age 15, there was hardly room for another merit badge on that sash. It was completely full, and it almost became a running joke that. And this was back in the 80s, owned by Jimmy Wayman. Every Court of Honor would have 10 merit badges, and that was because Mom she was doing it. You know, the very first merit badge I got surprisingly was my genealogy merit badge. And everybody in here knows that Mom was all about family history and doing genealogy, and from age 12, you know, we lived in Cedar City at the time, out on Lund Highway, and Dad and I we'd go into St. George once a week doing baptisms for the dead. How many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of names were baptized from work that Mom found. She'd travel the world going to cemeteries looking for names on headstones. This was pre-internet days. When you wanted to find something, you got on a plane, you flew out to an old English cemetery. On a fun side, one of the things, a perk of being the only boy, I got a little bit of special attention on occasions. I had a really good friend. His name was Rod, and him and I would go with Mom. She had a job for a short time at Trolley Square in Salt Lake, and on Friday nights we'd go hang out. She worked at a store called the Edinburgh Castle. It was a little boutique shop that sold obviously Scottish stuff, and it was really fun. She, in fact, the day she passed away, it just so happens that this friend of mine was online and happened to see the post, and I was able to talk with him. It's the first time I talked with him in years, and he commented on how cool she was, how she was just one of the guys. She wasn't the mom, behave yourself and whatnot. Some of the stuff she taught us, I can't repeat because, well, I guess the statute of limitations has passed. She was so fun to hang out with, and those Friday nights of those months back in, that was 1988. Those were good times. Another thing, when I think back to Mom, you all might have some of this at your house, but she cross-stitched like nobody's business. For how many years did she sit there? And Dad, did you have to get a part-time job to buy all the cross-stitching stuff? Piles and piles and piles of it. But I have them all over my walls. When I graduated from high school, she cross-stitched them. When I went on the Eagle Scouts, she cross-stitched. When I done my mission, she cross-stitched. Everything had a cross-stitching to go with it. And she got very, very good at it. I remember when she started, it was follow the X's and do that one. By the time years go by, she could do it by herself and create some really, really neat masterpieces. And I was gone for 2 years to South America, and I have a binder that big. I had a hard time. I haven't pulled them out yet. They're all handwritten letters every single week, without fail. She might have got one once a month from me, but every single week I have from 1993 to 1995, she would send me newspaper clippings of what was going on, his letters about whatever, pictures she drew. As Sarah read in the obituary, she was an accomplished writer, published, and I don't know how many of you know this, but she was a heck of an artist. She could draw, and I actually have a sacred stash now of poems and drawings that she's done that I have in my possession, and that she's done for my kids. You look back fondly on memories, but it was when I flew. I never cry, I don't. But when I flew home from South America and saw the lights of Miami in the distance, I remember tearing up a little bit, being grateful to be back in the good old USA. You appreciate it a lot more after you've been gone for a while. And where I was at was not the best part of the world. But, and I think Mom thinks I did this on purpose, but I was like one of the last ones off the plane. It was just where I happened to sit. But back Terminal C4 at the Salt Lake International Airport, I remember rounding the corner and walking down the hallway, came around, and there everybody was. But Dad made sure that she got the first hug. Sometimes it's kind of hard to actually think she's gone, you know. But we had our moments, and just like Dad, made sure she got the first hug. There was times. I remember my 17th birthday, and I don't know why this all came about, but Dad took all my sisters and left for the day, and that day was a me and Mom day, and we went out to breakfast, hung out all day, went out to lunch, rented a movie, Quigley Down Under. I remember the movie we even watched. We spent the entire day. Just me and her. That's how I spent my 17th birthday. You know, and it was a good day. That was a good day. And throughout the years, you know, as she's been writing all these stories and whatnot, she was so excited because my son Nick, he's quite the little author himself, and she was always so excited to read his stories and give feedback and critique a little bit. And she was so proud of you. You know, just proud of all of our grandkids and their accomplishments. Things that you know, I look at. I kind of made a joke about my what you would call scummy music. One of my favorite authors is Clive Cussler. I've read every one of his books. I always look forward to Clive Cussler books, and I think it might have been one of the last books she ever read, because they just hadn't come out. And her and I were in the last few weeks talking about it. Were you out in the book? And I still haven't finished it yet. It's kind of hard to actually finish. But I remember I always saw these books in the garage, and my sister was going to attest. Every time we moved, half the moving van was boxes of books. That's where this all came from. That's where it was anyway. Was carrying books for my adolescent years, and you know, I have that to thank for. I thoroughly enjoyed his books, and that's one of the things that we shared. Her and I was, in fact, I remember it was so cool because, like I said, she was a freelance author, and I don't know if you remember this, Dad, but when we came home from work one day, and there was a message from Clive Cussler on her answering machine. She had written him to see if she could go do an interview, and he called the house and left him answering on the answering machine. And she drove out to Telluride, Colorado. I couldn't go with her, but she went to his house and did an interview. That's how cool she was. She got to go visit Clive Cussler. Among other, I mean, she visited royalty. I mean, some of the people that didn't she like the King of Jordan? Was it the King of Jordan she got an interview with? I mean, she was an amazing woman. For the last 13, 14 years she's been in Atlanta. You know, she was a member of the Toastmaster Society, which book reading, and she thoroughly enjoyed it. I never really understood it, but as I've gotten older, come to appreciate it a little bit more. We always used to joke. There was a poem on one of the Police Academy movies that we always quoted. I won't say here because it's not proper, but we all know it's about a guy named Gene and Joe. You know, we always used to quote poetry, but it was fun. You know, you look at these pictures of Mom, and Heather did such a fantastic job putting these collages together, and they've blown these pictures up. But Mom loved flowers. If you look at all these pictures, usually of her in front of some flowers. And the zoos. When I was a kid, we'd always go to the whole zoo. You know, birthdays or whatever, the whole zoo was the place. And I think the Atlanta Zoo just lost one of its #1 patrons. She was always talking about her favorite animals and taking pictures with all of God's creations. She loved nature. I've been going through photo albums after photo albums trying to scan pictures visually so we can all share them. And the majority of them seem to be somewhere in a scenic spot. And that's just what she loved to do. She loved to travel. You know, over the years, I don't know how many trips she crossed the Atlantic. You know, going back to the old Low Country where she was born in Scotland. Go back and visit relatives. You know, and she had a heart of gold. I remember as a kid, one of her favorite things to do was she would do like the 12 Days of Christmas for people. She would make quilts. And she'd start in October, I swear, she'd start sewing quilts. And I would have to go ring the doorbell and run. But that neighborhood in Benyon, when we lived out in Taylorsville, was a benefactor of many of Margo's quilts. And that was her passion. She never wanted anybody to know who did it. That was always a secret. But how many dozens of blankets do you think we did? You know, trips to the park. Another thing I always remember about Mom was her and Dad would always play Yahtzee, and I could never beat her at Boggle. Boggle is that game where you roll the letters on the dice and try to make words. Forget about it. She was undefeated. Just one of the memories that there was a movie that she absolutely loved with Christopher Reeve in it called Somewhere in Time. And it's where he somehow was able to travel back in time and falls in love with somebody from the past. And anyway, got the rent. But Dad would always make sure he took us all out of the house so she could have the house for herself for those couple hours to watch Somewhere in Time. So I always think back to movies, and that one stands out as her movie, even though her and I remember, much to my teacher's dismay, she kept me and my older sister Chris out of school for the debut of Indiana Jones and the Last Knight of the Temple of Doom. Right up there by the old brickyard. She took us out of school that day, and we saw the very, very first showing, like at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And then she was shocked because there was a little bit more grotesque, and then hearts getting ripped out of the chest and stuff. But it was still, she loved it. She took us to all the Star Wars movies and all of them. I remember going to see the Goonies and countless movies with Mom. Her and I, that's just what we did. In fact, even after I got married and had kids, we'd still go see movies. And I remember the cheesiest things, but the last movie we saw was that U-571 with Paxton and Matthew McConaughey about the German submarine. And her and I went and saw that at the movie theater together. She loved Haagen-Dazs ice cream. That was one of her guilty pleasures, I guess you'd put it, was Haagen-Dazs ice cream. I don't know if that continued throughout the years, but that's what she loved. You know, and she always encouraged me to expand my talents. Back in high school, I was quite the artist. I was in AP art and do all this stuff, and she always encouraged me to strive and shoot for the stars, you know. And that's just her. She always builds you up. She knew when I'd have a bad day. You know, I'd come home from school, had a bad day with some bullies or something, and right away she'd know. You know, and she'd pull me aside and talk about it, see how things were. So, you know, I'm just so grateful for the Plan of Salvation. I've been thinking about it so much lately. We kept talking about going out and visiting Mom. In fact, this week was the week that we were going to take. I had it on vacation on the calendar from months ago that today was going to be this week. We were going to fly out and visit. That Sunday morning, I got to work, and Heather called me and said, given her 48 hours. That was hard. But I set a land speed record making it from 114 south to Layton. I think I did it in about 20 minutes to catch an airline ticket. And 2 hours later, she passed away. But she knows that we all loved her. she knows that we have her on a pedestal. And as hard as it was the last several years, not having being able to give hugs and whatnot, she knows that we loved her and the kids. Thank heaven for Skype. Technology made it possible to have one-on-one visits with her across the country. Not the same as sitting there holding hands and getting hugs, but we loved her, and I could just talk all day. But 3 weeks ago we had a wake-up call. It's life is precious, and I wish it, shoulda, coulda, wouldas. I wish I had flown out earlier, but I'm very, very much aware of the spirit world. Where we're coming from, where we were, and where we're going. And I would not be surprised if she's in this room with us right now. I hope she is, so she can hear me talking how much I love her and miss her. Throughout the last 13, 14 years, I want to tell Tom, her husband, thank you very much. I've only met you in person, I think twice or 3 times, but thank you so much for taking care of her. These last couple of years have been pretty hard on her physically, with all her illnesses and cancer, but Tom has actually joined us on Skype here. I guess I should make introductions. We got a whole room full of people, and we got 4 rooms of people on Skype here. So I think it's a great tribute to Mom for the people that turned out. She was well loved in many, many areas. There was an older couple that was here that had to step out. Those were missionaries that served in Atlanta, and remembered Mom and Stephanie very, very well. I'm gonna quit talking because I feel like I'm rambling now. But I just want to say thank you for being my mom.